Welcome back. John Williams with Bill Ryan. You are in the pits. Joining us on the line right now, a good friend, Maine native, a winner in the Sprint Cup Series, the Camping World Truck Series, the Nationwide Series, and ESPN analyst Ricky Craven. Hey, Ricky, good morning.
Hey, John and Bill, how are you?
Doing just terrific. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes out of what I know is a very busy schedule. Ricky, I'm going to jump right in, and the first question I'm going to ask you is, give us kind of an overview of how you think the chase is going this year with the new points format, and what are some of the surprises you're seeing?
I talked to Dave Rogers before the chase began. He told me that he expected every team would have a throwaway race, and of course Dave is Kyle Busch's crew chief. Having said that, it's almost as though every team needs two throwaway races. I think it's as competitive as it's ever been. I think that too many people were quick to discount the 48 and suggest that they were different than years past. I've never believed that. And Carl Edwards, I think, is probably best positioned to win his first championship. He's a complete driver. But having said that, you look at what Kevin Harvick did last year, where he ran 10 races in the chase. His worst finish was 15th. So he has experience on his side. I think it's a great balance right now.
I've taken a particular interest this year in Brad Keselowski. He came up and ran the TD Bank 250 last year, 2010. I was just impressed with him. A great guy, just a superhuman being, and I was just interested in why his success hadn't translated from the into the Cup Series from what he had in the Nationwide Series, and then all of a sudden he's kind of come out of nowhere. Can you not specific to Brad, but using him as an example, can you tell us why somebody can have such a dramatic change seemingly so quickly in racing? It's just been really interesting to see his rise in the past 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Bill. Brad Keselowski raced with his dad in the Truck Series a few years ago, and obviously didn't have great equipment. But I got to admit, I didn't see this coming. And then when he got the opportunity to race for Roger, he's capitalized. He's really done a great job. He won the Nationwide Championship last year. He has to share the success with Paul Wolf. Paul Wolf is one of the most exciting crew chiefs to come along in several years. I put him in the same category as a Ray Evernham. They bring that combination to the Sprint Cup Series. They struggle the first half, and then they go on fire. Ironically, the same time that Brad breaks his ankle in a testing crash in Atlanta. So my take on it was this, that these cars in the Sprint Cup Series are different than the Nationwide Series. And when Brad had his injury, he suspended his Nationwide Series program. He didn't race for a month. He focused 100% on Sprint Cup. Now, isn't that interesting, guys? That's the same thing that Jimmy Johnson's been doing the last 5 years and won 5 straight titles. And I've been saying all along that Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards, their appetite to race 2, 3, 4 times a week works against them.
That's an interesting point, Ricky. And I hadn't really. I mean, obviously we're cognizant of what these other drivers are doing. So what you're saying basically is that there's a real connection between perhaps a driver just doing too much of a good thing.
I'm going to simplify it by saying anybody listening, and both of you are professionals. I mean, you can appreciate this. If you don't surround yourself with the right people, you're going to struggle to do anything well, and you're sure as heck not going to do everything outstanding. I mean, my gosh, Michael Jordan proved that. I mean, just because you can be so good at one thing in basketball, it doesn't mean you can switch gears and go do baseball. And in this case, there's no way that you can get out of a car, a Sprint Cup Series car, go over, give your crew chief 5 minutes, go over and run the Nationwide Series car in practice, and then come back and say, where was I? There's no way you can give the same information to your crew chief that Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon can give to their crew chief, because all they do is one thing. They race Sprint Cup Series. And it gets exaggerated when you run a Truck Series race and a Nationwide Series race and a Sprint Cup Series race all in the same weekend.
Do you think that that's starting to be recognized by some of these guys, or what's the motivation? I mean, is it at the end of the day, is it the love to race, or is it just is it money because there's obviously money to be made, or will they recognize this? Some of these other guys, using Brad maybe as an example in terms of how focus might help their Sprint Cup game.
Well, I'll start by using myself as the perfect example. Race car drivers are pretty narrow-minded, so that was my attempt at being funny. If you laugh, that would help me. If you look at what motivates drivers, it's winning, and it doesn't matter what series it is. I can assure you that when the Sprint Cup Series drivers come to Oxford, it is all about winning that Oxford 250, and it's how we're programmed. So it doesn't matter what series or what rank the race is, it's all about winning, and it becomes very selfish and very narrow-minded. And if there's some monetary, if there's a financial aspect to it, then yeah, that's what makes the world go round. But I think it's more of a competitive thing. Now, yes, to answer your question, I think it is being recognized. If you look, Kyle Busch has cut back a little bit. I think Brad should, and I think Carl Edwards should. But, we'll see. For 5 years, the numbers don't lie. The guy that's been laying it on him is Jimmy Johnson. And only a few weeks ago, Kevin Harvick basically came out and said echoed what I'm saying now. He wants to focus on winning his Sprint Cup Series championship. So he's divested his nationwide and truck program and basically sold it off to Richard Childress.
Ricky, one of the subjects that has been coming up a lot during this the first three races of the chase for the championship. Number one, the first two races basically were fuel mileage races. And then they've been talking a lot about the fact that track position going into the race is becoming more important than ever before, meaning that it's becoming difficult for a chase competitor, if they qualify badly at the back of the pack, to move up through this group. What is your sense of that kind of discussion that is taking place, and is it out of the ordinary based on what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I think it's the new norm that we're seeing races affected by fuel mileage almost weekly, and it certainly has been the theme of 2011. And the reason for it, the cars don't break. We don't have the engines expiring. The teams are so good, so efficient. We don't have simple things happening like oil leaks. And Goodyear's made an outstanding tire. They really had to go back to work and design a new tire to support this car we call the car of tomorrow. As a result, we don't have the cautions. So fuel mileage has become an important aspect, probably the most critical aspect for the teams and the drivers. And on top of that, the field has never had more depth and more parity. I talk with the drivers, and they're saying, listen, we're separated by a tenth and a half in race trim, and you just can't make a pass on some of these tracks being that close.
Will NASCAR change something along the lines here to make it a little bit easier for guys to pass?
It's a great question, Bill. I think that the best thing NASCAR can do, and they have a history of doing this, is that when the competition gets really, really close, or if a driver team get on a run, if they discover something that's working for them that nobody else is aware of, NASCAR will mix it up a little bit. They'll change a rule. And this fuel injection, from carburation will be a big, big deal. I know that the teams are trying to get ahead of it. I can't tell you what it will do fuel mileage-wise. I mean, I know they'll be more efficient, but I don't know how it's going to affect the races. But I do know it's going to change it's going to challenge some teams more than others. And you have to wonder, is Jack Roush ahead of it? Is Rick Hendrick Motorsports ahead of it? I think it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out of Daytona, and capitalizes on it.
The fear that I've always heard about the fuel injection, at least, and the rumors that I'm talking just from racers probably, at the local level with fuel injection, is that you go from you go from kind of the old-fashioned way of doing things to almost a computer kind of age, and that there's this fear that somehow they can. With the fuel injection being somewhat computerized, that somehow somebody can get around it. Almost a computer hacker out there. Can kind of get around how that works. Is any of that founded at all? Any of those kind of fears?
Well, there are people a lot smarter than I am that would build that argument. The only thing I have is I have experience with NASCAR, and I say, and you both are aware of this, being involved with NASCAR and following NASCAR. I feel sorry for anybody that attempts to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they would suffer a severe penalty. NASCAR would make a bold, unprecedented statement if somebody were, for lack of better words, if somebody were cheating the fuel injection system. You know, the primary reason they're doing it is that the manufacturers of these cars, these four brands, you know, they don't build cars with carburetors on them anymore.
Ricky, we've got about a minute left before the show comes to a conclusion. Give us a sense of where you think things are going to end up. I guess I'm asking you for a prediction. Is 5-time going to be 6-time this year? Does it look like he's going to be able to do what nobody thought he could do?
Yeah, I spent some time with Jimmy a few weeks ago. He had fire in his eyes. I asked him if he was better position, worse position, what's his frame of mind. He said, Ricky, I've never been better. They haven't won a race this year other than the restricted plate race at Talladega, but I can tell you this team is capable of winning the championship with top fives. They can do it every week. I think Jimmy's still the guy to beat. The one guy I think could do it, if Jimmy doesn't win the championship, keep your eye on Carl Edwards.
Absolutely. Ricky, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. We thank you so much for taking a couple minutes out of your busy schedule, and we hope to not only talk with you again, perhaps to see you here in the state of Maine in the near future.
I look forward to it, guys. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Ricky.
Take